The sequence of negotiation is reordered in absolute femdom. This is chapter 3 of the series Negotiating Femdom. You're listening to the Mistress Code. I'm RacyWilde. One of the greatest sources of confusion for those encountering absolute femdom for the first time is the way it arranges the sequence of negotiation. In most relational or kink-based models, negotiation is the first step. It is the opportunity to decide on the power dynamic that will be included in it. But in absolute femdom, negotiation is not done first. There is an extra step of consent that must happen. The femdom structure is declared and accepted first, and only after that does negotiation start. In absolute femdom, the dominor's femdom and authorship is not up for negotiation. It is the precondition for the negotiation. That means a submissive does not come to the table to co-author the structure of the dynamic. He arrives at the table because he has already accepted the dominor's sovereignty. Before a single limit is discussed or a single preference disclosed, the submissive must first consent to the architecture itself, that the domina is the authority and power of the dynamic, that the dynamic will be authored entirely from her internal logic, her erotic agency, and her philosophical worldview. This creates what I call a double threshold model of consent. The first threshold is universal. Does the submissive consent to enter into an asymmetrical power dynamic? If yes, he is granted access to the next gate. The second threshold is specific to absolute femdom. Does the submissive consent to the domina being the sole author of the structure? If yes, only then does the negotiation process begin. Critics unfamiliar with this model often misread it as authoritarian or unethical. But in truth, this sequence dramatically increases consent, because unlike relative femdom, where the shape of power is revealed gradually through mutual adjustment and co-authorship, absolute femdom places its structure up front. It is the difference between consenting to increments of co-authorship, not knowing exactly where the dynamic will go, so there is a risk that the dynamic could turn out not to be even femdom at all, or consenting to a complete femdom structure, knowing exactly what is offered, so there is no doubt that it is authentic domination. The absolute domina does not hide the nature of her rule. She names it, she explains it, and she requires that the submissive understand it and consent to it before continuing. This transparency is the complete opposite of coercion. It respects the submissive by full disclosure, and this is precisely what makes the model more consent aware, not less. Therefore, this reordered sequence, the two-threshold consent coming first, changes the function of negotiation. In relative dynamics, negotiation is about likes, dislikes, desires, and styles. It is a planning session for co-constructed play. But in absolute femdom, negotiation becomes a moment to evaluate alignment, not between preferences, but between capacity and vision. The submissive is not asked, "What would you like to experience?" He is asked, "Can you align with what I already intend to create?" The absolute domina does not seek validation. She does not aim to match her femdom to his preferences. She seeks resonance with her femdom. The outcome of this model is profound. A submissive entering into absolute negotiation does so with a deeper level of informed awareness, and this sets up a dynamic for success. He will not be surprised when the domina does not fulfill his fantasy, as he has never expected her to. He will not be disorientated when she withholds details or denies certain acts, as he knew her authorship required full creative freedom. He is not disappointed by the absence of menu-style mutual planning, as he did not expect to be serviced of his preferences, but to offer his submission. And what's more, he will know from the beginning that he has entered an authentic femdom power dynamic with real domination. And to a lot of submissives, that knowledge alone is phenomenal. And for this reason, absolute femdom negotiation is structured differently for the domination and submission to be authentic. The absolute domina is not diluting her power through negotiation. She is declaring it first and allowing only those who can honor it to approach. The submissive is not shaping the domina's behavior or choices through his preferences. He is consenting to be shaped by her will. And in so doing, he ensures what most men secretly long for: to be truly dominated. Authentic domination cannot occur when power is jointly held. It cannot emerge from mutual compromise. It cannot be authored by a committee. Real domination is authored by the domina, and only when that authorship is accepted as foundational can real submission follow. In this way, the reordering of negotiation is not a deviation from ethical BDSM. It is a philosophical evolution of it. It repositions negotiation not as a tool of collaboration, but as a test of readiness, an access via double consent. And in so doing, it reframes consent not as a checkbox, but as a sacred crossing from fantasy to surrender, from desire to devotion, and from negotiation to entry. The last installment of this series will be consent thresholding in absolute femdom.